chat coordinator or community facilitator today. He is online. He will share some links that I just sent over to him that give you access to the previous webinar. We also did two earlier webinar series with Lauren and I. One was called Increase Profitability by Working with Law Firms. There was a three-part series as well. And then we also did Expand Your Practice by Owning Your Expertise and Earning What You're Worth. So Lauren and I are good friends and have been doing this for a while. One little note on Lien Law, just so everyone knows, we are a software as a service tool. We are an invoicing workflow platform with the industry's best integration into QuickBooks Online. We work exclusively in the law niche and very closely with Intuit and QuickBooks Online. We actually recently signed a partnership agreement with Intuit focused on developing and product features specific to QuickBooks Online Advanced and attracting and selling that into the law community with a specificity to mid-market. So lots of exciting things happening. One little thing, Lauren, just to get before we get going, I want to ask a quick poll just to kind of check in with people. So I'm going to launch this first poll, which is a simple question. Have you ever attended a Lien Law and Lauren Fogelman webinar? So I'm just curious.
Wow, I'm branded.
Are first timers and who are not. So we're just going to have this open for a minute or so, less than a minute, until we get a certain percentage. Okay, so it's 50-50, Lauren. About half the folks have been with us before and the other half are new. I have a second quick poll, just out of curiosity. Are you currently working, so the poll is, are you currently working with clients that use Lien Law? I'm just kind of curious as to who in this community is new to Lien Law and who is already kind of interacting with us. So, and I've got three answers here, which is yes, no, and I expect to in the future. So the majority are I expect to in the future or yes, and then we have another half that are not. So I'm going to end that poll now. And then the last thing I just want to make mention of is this. I'm going to share this on my screen. We do have something called the Lien Law Accounting Pro program. This is our version of what we call QuickBooks Pro Advisors. This is online training and certification to learn Lien Law. It is about community, education, and collaboration. That is the spirit of this group. And Steve will share a link with this to the community, but we would welcome everyone to be part of our community. And everyone who joins as one perk gets a free version of Lien Law to use as a sandbox and or potentially do their own billing. And there is never any charge for you to access your client's Lien Law program as a Lien Law Accounting Pro. And if you deploy a Lien Law account, your clients get a 20% discount off their first year. So you get exclusive benefit. Okay, that's all I wanted to do. I want to get into today's topic. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can focus on Lauren and I and get into the meat of today's topic. So Lauren, because a lot of folks are just getting acquainted with you, let's just please introduce yourself. Let me tell you a little bit about can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be a business coach, and specifically an accounting business coach?
Absolutely. I would love to share a little bit about that. Basically, I am a sports psychologist turned business coach. What I have found is that there's so many similarities between athletes and entrepreneurs, especially when we're looking at people in the accounting professional, because they're both looking at achieving certain numbers. Maybe they wear different uniforms, but that is really about it. The only other difference I found between sports psychology, working with athletes, and people in the accounting professionals is that athletes from the very beginning get coached. They have someone on the outside that sponsors them, is a mentor, a coach telling them how to be able to really achieve their peak performance at a faster rate than if they were doing it themselves. As business owners, we tend to be fiercely independent and try to figure it out ourselves. We don't necessarily like asking for help. What I have seen is over the years, I have developed a niche as well as a specialty, which is really working solely with accounting professionals And what I loved doing is helping them have a highly profitable business by looking at where they're leaving money on the table, specifically the pricing piece. How do you communicate your value? How do you separate your fees from time? How do you have a business where you're highly serving your clients and it's also supporting your lifestyle as well without having to compromise? From 2018 to 2020, I have been on the list of top 22 business coaches by HubSpot. And I am just thrilled to be continuing to partner with you. Jonathan, Leanlaw is a fantastic product. A lot of my clients use it for their attorneys that they work with, and I've seen it do great things. So happy to have you here, and let's just keep on moving forward.
So thanks, Lauren. It's, I really mean this in all sincerity. The collaboration has been great. I mean, I think this is our 8th webinar we've done together. It's fluid and it's fun. And I think what is really of value is your specificity and focus into accounting. What we learned in Lynn Law and why we focus on law and not try to be a general tool is that the more we niche, the smarter we become and the more fluid we become in terms of learning what our customer needs are and how that translates back into our product. So niching is actually liberating because you can separate out all the noise. We don't need to be a tool for architects. We don't need to think about those requirements. So I just want to set the stage a little bit as we move forward into this. This is the second, as we mentioned, of a third of a 3-part series. So if you could just give us a little overview of the 3-part series at a 10,000 foot level so the group has context. Not everyone obviously listened to the first one. And then help the group understand what they're going to learn today. So let's just set the table for where we were, what we're going to learn today, and where we're headed.
Okay. The first one we did in the series, which was in July, is how to earn more from your cleanups and eliminate the cleanup surprises. What I really looked at is some of the inherent problems with the way that you might be onboarding your clients, especially when you're going right into a cleanup project, how to be able to make sure that it is a client who actually respects and values what you bring to the table, being able to recognize that when you dive in too quickly, you end up with maybe more complexities than what the client originally told you. Plus, you're actually looking at how to get paid for the value instead of your time and maybe some other costs as well. You're able to earn more. And I showed you all those. Jonathan, I'm sure you have links for those somewhere also in your archives. So that is...
We have links. So just Steve has links to all of the previous webinars and additionally the one that we did in July. So he's just sharing those in the chat session as part of this.
And then today we're looking at how to create irresistible packages, because when you separate your fees from time, you actually earn more. Your clients don't care about how long it takes. Actually, there's more value to it being done faster as opposed to it being a long, drawn out process. And packages are the ways to really have clients recognize the value. It also, and I'll go into it a little bit today, is a way for you to get paid for those things that you don't want to nickel and dime your clients on, or that you don't know how to charge them for. Packages solve all those things. And then the third one, which we're doing in November, is going to be 3 ways to stop attracting the wrong clients to your business. Because you might be doing subtle things that can be changed that actually pre-qualifies a client and really has clients who are price sensitive or ones that you don't enjoy working with, have them self-select out before they ever get on your calendar. We're going to show you how to start to really avoid attracting those wrong clients to your business so that you're really working with clients who highly value, respect you, and are happy to pay your fees.
So, and I think the one of the most astute things you said, and what I'm looking forward to next time, is how to attract the right client and not the wrong client. Something that's happening at Lean Law right now is that, we're 4.5 years old, 5 years old, and we're finally learning what that right client is. And we're working really hard to find that, because when you get the right product market fit, it's a joyous conversation, right? When you don't, because you don't understand what your offering is, and you don't understand how to sell it, it's a tough conversation because the client can't really understand what they're buying and you're not properly communicating your value. Okay, we have another poll here that's going to jump into it. This is a super easy poll. Do you offer packages currently? Yes or no? Okay, so we're just going to allow this to kick in until we get into the 80th. A few more people to vote, another few seconds. All right, I'm going to end the polling because we got the majority, and the majority, 71%, actually do have for packages. So, so this is a group that has some understanding here. So I think we need to, start. You've talked a lot about your expertise in terms of pricing systems, and taking a step back, just so we can bring this into the conversation. Can you overview and tell the group a little bit about your pricing formula? And it's always your goal to increase income without doing more work. So let's start there by letting folks know what your pricing formula is, that strategy.
It's actually called the ultimate pricing formula. It has 5 steps. The very first one is that ideal client. Who is the person that highly values you, respects what you bring to the table, happy to pay your fees? And if you had your calendar filled up with those clients, you would really feel like this was your dream business. That is the very first thing that I look at with my clients. After that, I look at your signature system. What this does is recognize that most of the experts that you follow have some type of process or system that they follow. If you're able to actually communicate the steps that you take with your clients and when you first meet them to getting that end result that they want, then that gives you authority and they see you as an expert. It raises the value in their eyes about what you're able to do to help them to really achieve that result. Being able to communicate it is what starts to really allow you to separate your fees some time, also earn more, because you're now an expert and an authority. It's not just about the processes or the products you use or the apps that you have in place. After that, I help my clients define their packages. That's what we're starting to go into today and taking a deep dive in. We actually roll up our sleeves together. We create their packages, and that way they're able to just go right out and get it done and start selling on value instead of competing on price. The fourth thing that I do, which is really my favorite thing, is how to be able to separate your fees from time and cost, because what you highly value and what your clients highly value are 2 different things. If you're able to start value pricing your services, you simply earn more without having to work additional hours. It is then going to increase your cash flow, you're more profitable. You can then advance your business at a faster level than when you're charging by the hour or giving fixed rates. It just changes everything, not only about your business, but about your lifestyle as well. And then the 5th part is strategy and marketing. How do you get in front of those people? How do you attract those right people to you? And once they're coming to you, how do you have those conversations like Jonathan was mentioning to enroll those ideal clients into your services and working with you? Basically, those are the 5 steps, Jonathan, the ultimate pricing formula that I offer.
And I think, to me, what the most important, you may just do, obviously you're the expert, but just listening and I talk to accounting professionals on a regular basis, and they, being in my role in lien law, so we recognize 2 customers in our company. We recognize the accounting professional as a customer. That's why we have a lien law accounting pro, and we do all sorts of things to try to help evangelize into that community, and of course the law client. And I will tell you, the signature system, what you said, if everyone to walk away with, one concept in their head, is this idea of a signature system. It just, to me, seems that series of workflows is the catalyst that everything downstream is created, because if you do not have a signature system, it's very difficult to ever create repeatable best practices. And how do you ever communicate that? How do you ever market that? How does your client ever connect with that? So I thought that's something that really connected and resonated with me. So I want to take a step in a slightly different direction. So now that we kind of understand this pricing, I think it's important that we think about the customer. We keep talking about this sort of product market fit and their mindset. And, you know, there's like, I want you to sort of help this audience think about the customer's mindset and challenges that they have buying from accounting professionals. And then, you know, of course, how does packages facilitate that process? So, you know, because you've got this lawyer and, you know, we think about a solo lawyer up to a large law firm in terms of who's buying, and now they're interacting with an accounting professional, and there's almost like two different languages happening here. So how does that process work, and how do packages help facilitate that?
Well, the first thing is lawyers will probably ask you your hourly rate because they're still mostly wedded to a billable hour as well. That's their frame of reference. However, I will let you know that's all the accounting professionals that I work with that are working through with attorneys and using the lien law product, they are offering packages and their attorneys are signing up for packages. Therefore, just because they've always done it a certain way doesn't mean that that is the optimal way. The main thing to recognize is if you're unable to communicate your value, then you continue to compete on price. When you compete on price, whether it's an hourly rate or a fixed rate, you are leaving money on the table. You're not earning as much as you could. The other thing to recognize when you're starting to look at this is value is subjective. What you want to do is recognize that it's not what you value about what you bring to the table. You want to step into your client's shoes. It's about what they value. That's going to determine whether they are going to take that next step of working closely with you or not. When you start to think about this, there's two different things you want to consider. The first one is you want to consider their needs, wants, and desires. This is about having a value conversation instead of a sales pitch, because I don't really know any accounting professional that enjoys the sales part, especially the part where you're trying to pitch them. Because that you want to have a conversation that really focuses on what's important to them. And by asking great questions, they're then recognizing that, yes, you have the expertise, you have the understanding to help them achieve those things that they want or solve their headaches. That's the first thing, is knowing what their needs, wants, and desires are. Then the second thing that they are considering is the experience of working with you. You want to consider, what is that client experience that they have from working with you? Are you approachable? Do they feel comfortable talking to you, asking about their questions? Are you willing to maybe teach them how to really understand the story behind the numbers? Because the majority of your clients cannot read a balance sheet or P&L or any of the other amazing reports that you send them as well as you do. Therefore, they really need to know that you are there for them and you're part of the team. The other thing that you want to consider when you're looking at separating your fees from time and going into packages is the consideration that the main thing that is different with value pricing than everything else, they need to believe that the value they have to gain from working with you is greater than the fees that they're paying you. I'm just going to say that one more time because it's a paradigm shift. What they have to gain from working with you and hiring you is going to be greater than the fees that they're paying you. If you can show them that, then they are going to move forward and work with you. And it's not about the time. It's not about your apps. It's about the fact that you're either going to help them solve a problem, become more profitable, fix money leaks, do something with maybe the distribution that helps to retain their employees longer, but you're going to help in some way of either achieving a goal or getting rid of a headache.
And I think, you know, what we see from my perspective, and one of the challenges and why I think, you know, the signature system that you talked about and some of the concepts that you just presented are important, is that at least from our sales process, we're constantly having to translate from what they were doing into this new workflow, right? Because their whole mindset is, well, this is the way we did it. And there's this tension that we always see because they're like, well, why do you need that? Like people say, I need this thing, this feature, this process. And the accounting professional who's our partner in the sales process often says they don't need it. They just think they need it. So by having a system and having packages and talking about human relationships and not just billable hours, it actually allows them to get out of what they were doing and maybe see the future. And then when they see that, they can get to those sort of tangible things that you talked about, money leaks, other values. And it rises you out of what we've seen is it rises the accounting community out of the commodity of the billable hour and into these more trusted advisor personal relationships. Before I get to my next question, Darlene asked the question, how do you find out how much per hour or how much you can charge for services when specializing in lien law? How would you answer that question, Lauren? I have my answer.
I believe that pricing is part art and science. Basically, it is by recognizing the value of what the client is looking to solve. And that is, as you were saying, Jonathan, answering great questions. Basically, with value pricing, you're pricing the client, not the service that you do. The packages help to create a template. What I would say is if you are looking to first start shifting away from value price, from your billable hour towards value pricing, it's going to be a stretch. You are going to want to have a good, better, and best price. The good price is going to be maybe 1.5 times more than what you would normally charge, just to start to let you see that people will pay for value instead of time, and give them a flat rate that they're paying before you do the services, so you're not chasing money. Therefore, it's about 1.5 times more than what you would normally charge for the month, let's say. And then a better rate is going to be 2 times more. Now, you might not feel comfortable doing 2 times more right off the bat, but that would be a better rate. And the best rate would be maybe 3 times more. It's something that you gradually move into. I actually have a worksheet that helps you get started with that. And I'm going to be sharing it with everybody that registered later on. So I will give you a better formula into that as well. But thanks for asking that question, Darlene.
So it really leads, it's a really great segue to our next the next point we want to talk about is that, it's values hard. Like, how do you describe value? That's a very hard challenge for people at times to articulate, especially in the sales process. So, what is the relationship between value and price? How do you explain that to a client?
Well, I want to let you know that it is really recognizing that when someone's looking to work with you, they are going to be comparing. According to my research and my study on neuroscience and how our brains work, is we are always comparing and judging. Even if we don't think that we're doing it, we are. When you are typically talking with someone about how to work with you, they're now comparing you to maybe somebody else. When we're offering packages, now they're comparing different options of working with you, and they're considering how they want to work with you as opposed to if they want to work with you or move on. I will say it is similar to buying a car. If you're looking to get to a meeting that is you needing to go from your house to a meeting, you can either buy a Geo Metro, which is going to be a very basic car that will get you from where you are to where you need to be that meeting, but it's going to be really, really basic. Now, you might have a Volvo because you have a family. You want to really prioritize safety. That's important to you. And not only do you want to get there dependably, but you want to make sure that you have the safest ride possible. And then the third one is you might buy a Tesla. With a Tesla, it is a status. As soon as you drive by, people recognize what it represents. Also, that it is showing that you're looking for a certain experience when driving a car, and you might care about the environment as well. And recognize that not everybody in this group has a Geo Metro. You chose a car for a couple of different qualities, the experience, the drive, the reliability, other factors maybe, but that there were certain factors that were important to you. And as a result of that, you went with that particular type of vehicle. If it was just about the basics, everybody would be buying a Geo Metro. But that's not what I see when I'm driving down the freeway. And I'm sure that if you start to really look at your business, recognizing that some of your clients are going to be geo metros, they're going to want just the basics and maybe crank windows instead of electric windows too. There's going to be the majority of clients that go into that mid-sized car, they're going to want really the main features that you offer, and there'll be some average things that they need. Those are the Volvo buyers. And then there's some people that want exceptions, they want more access to you, they have more complexities. Those are your Tesla clients. The other thing I just want to say about this is, if you don't like tracking your time, and I know so many accounting professionals that really don't like tracking their time, they don't like invoicing, they don't want to chase money, then offering packages that have a fixed price and you're getting paid before you do the work is a way to be able to solve that headache and actually open up more hours for you to do some other work on your business, or maybe go ahead and have some more free time for yourself.
As a side, one of my top 3 favorite cars I've ever owned was a Geo Metro, which I did fresh out of college in San Francisco. It was a 3-cylinder hatchback that I could actually go to Chinatown and park. So I have a lot of affinity for that. I think the other little note that I might make, we talked about, I keep going back to the signature system, and we talked about the power of niching. When you think about value and as you niche and you really begin to understand to speak to that client, it's much easier to articulate the value, not just the differences between the Metro, the Volvo, and the Tesla in terms of services or other things, but really how does that translate to value and meaning to the lawyer, because you're using their language. You're using things that are of value to them. And if you try to do that to a manufacturing firm, you try to do that to a law firm, you try to do that to an architectural firm, you'll never really truly develop the muscle memory and understanding the mechanics of that business to really get at what is most important to them. So I want to kind of shift the conversation a little bit. You've already said this about leaving money on the table. You say that routinely about accounting professionals that leave money on the table because they either leave some things out, or they just routinely do things for free because they just, they do it because they don't know how to charge for it, or it's 65 value. So what gets overlooked in packages when people begin to assemble them? And how do you plug up those money leaks? We mean money leaks, those things that we're not realizing revenue on.
Jonathan, the very first thing that gets overlooked with packages is that the outcome gets overlooked. When you're thinking about packages, most people are putting in the tasks, the compliance piece, the reports, maybe how many transactions, how many bank accounts, how many credit cards they have, but they're overlooking that each package is going to deliver a certain outcome. That's what your clients are buying. They are buying the outcome, not the tasks necessary in order to have you achieve that outcome. Because of that, the packages emphasize what you know, not what you do. That's really important for you to think about as you step into your client's shoes. You want to have them see the value of working with you. They're not as concerned about what you do. In fact, if you talk about it too much, their eyes are going to glaze over. They just want to know if you can help them fix a problem or achieve a result. The things that I look at is really, first you have to have that ideal client. And it's better to have an ideal client and know who that is if you're going to develop packages. Because as you were saying, Jonathan, with lien law, you know that you're working with the attorney population, and you don't have to worry about the needs of an architect or marketer or some other types of professions. Everything you do is geared towards legal practices. Well, as a accounting professional, you want to think about, do you have a niche? Do you have a specialty, or both? Because coming from an accounting perspective that works with attorneys, it might be that, yes, you're focusing on the legal industry, but I'm going to bet that estate planning attorneys have some different needs and requirements than criminal lawyers do. You want to be able to know what those specifics are. Therefore, it's about choosing a niche, and it could be just the attorney industry, but then recognizing that there are actually sub-niches within it, or micro niches.
I think that I'm interrupting you, but that I was going to make that exact point. I think it's not acceptable is too wrong word. It's not going far enough just to say I'm going to work in legal. It's you really want to take it a step further, because when you're talking to a family law attorney that's doing lots of fixed fees, they're taking trust money, they're, and it's all about that sort of, almost retail-like business in the sense that they have lots of clients with smaller products versus a contingency attorney that it's all about expense management and cash flow because they're doing everything on spec. Those are two entirely different conversations, and they're different accounting needs. The cash flow of a contingency firm could be the most critical thing in capturing and articulating those expenses and dispersing the trust, versus the family law might have a totally different thing. So it's really having the dexterity to go from conversation to conversation. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was the point I really wanted.
That's fine. That's one part of the ideal client. The other part is, if you like having the variety, then maybe you want to consider having a specialty. For you, a specialty might be forensic accounting, or it could be taxes. And think about that. You can have a niche, you can have a specialty, or you can have a combination of both, which is what I do. Now, my niche is the accounting profession. My specialty is on the pricing side of it. I've combined both, and I found that for me personally, that's my sweet spot. But there's different ways that you can approach it, and wanted to give you all the options. The other thing that you want to do when you're looking at how to get started is understanding, once again, stepping into your client's shoes, knowing their needs, wants, and desires. Then once you know their needs, wants, and desires, you can actually start to list services and find out, okay, these things in this silo help them to achieve that result or take care of that problem. And as you're doing that, you're going to build it out to where there's going to be that Geo Metro, the Volvo, and the Tesla packages, because even within that, there's going to be complexities, which I'll probably be going into in another moment or so.
I want to add one little comment here, Lauren, because I get, again, current professionals ask me, advice about attracting lawyers. And I then go and look at their websites and look at sort of the services offered, which would be the catalyst into a package. And they state the obvious. We do AP, we do AR, we do payroll services. And I want to tell everyone, that's like selling a car and saying that the car has tires. No one hires an accounting professional and doesn't think that they do account reconciliation in AP and AR and HR. What the lawyer wants to hear is that you do things that are of value to them, like I can reconcile your trust account. I can help you do compensation reports. I can help you understand cash flow if you're a contingency attorney, things that are really of value and meaning to them. So don't just think that your basic core services are enough. They expect that. I mean, you want to state that. I'm not trying to dismiss that, the importance of it, but you need to go deeper in thinking about what it is of value to that, ideal client. I constantly see that on people's websites. It's like, it doesn't say anything to a lawyer.
Actually, in my Facebook group, which is Business Success Solutions for Accounting Professionals, last week I interviewed a web designer, and we went really into the details as to how to separate your website and make it client attractive compared to all the others. So thank you for just going there with that, Jonathan.
Yeah. So let's go back to the plug the hole. So we talked about the ideal client, we talked about the niche, and so summarize that, because I got us off point. Summarize this back, like what is the absolute things that, how do you plug those holes?
Mm-hmm.
How do these, I guess I'm going to let me ask the question slightly differently. How do these things actually plug the holes?
Got it. And also I put that free resource that I was mentioning there, that when I was answering Darlene's question about how to start to package and value price your services. If you want it, you're more than welcome to grab it. I will be sending it to everybody as well. As you're starting to look at plugging those holes, what you want to do is, this is where you want to get out your Excel spreadsheet and start to list all your services on a spreadsheet. List everything, the things that you charge for, as well as the things you do for clients that you never charge for because you don't know how to, or you feel that it's nickel and diming them. Go ahead and think about that. Then what you also want to do is think about, okay, what are the specific problems that you are solving for your clients? What's possible for them? Are some of the things that you're doing maybe payroll, or you're helping them be aware of their cash flow? You do forecasting for them. What are some of the things that you're doing to really help solve for your clients? Then what you want to do is, now that you know those things that you solve for your clients, take the list of services on your Excel spreadsheet and apply the one services that you do to solving that particular problem. Now you're going to actually start to have results-based packages that you can offer your clients, and you're bundling services together instead of doing it a la carte. I did this with one of our mutual clients, actually, Susan. Basically, when I first met Susan, her business was running her instead of her running her business. She was trying to be all things to all people. She was very fragmented in many, many different ways, and she didn't take charge of her business. We started to shift that around by, once again, creating a workflow of how to onboard clients in order to bring on really ideal clients. But we also developed packages pretty quickly. Basically, I helped to design 3 packages, like I'm talking about what we're talking about here. I call them silver, gold, and diamond packages. Basically, the silver is the Geo Metro. It is the bare essentials of what your clients need in order to be able to have some understanding about their cash flow and be able to keep their business running. It is the very basics as far as reports go and keeping everything up to date and organized. Then there's going to be the gold package. This is where the majority of your clients are going to fit in. You're doing things that are meeting the needs of the majority of the clients, and maybe a little bit more than that. You're giving them some additional, maybe you're giving them some consulting time or advisory services in addition to that. This is what I feel is financial housekeeping. It keeps them informed about the financial health of their business. Then you're going to have that third package, which is the diamond package. This is basically looking at clients who have more complexities. Maybe they have more than one business entity. They have a larger firm than the majority of your firms are. They are looking at possibly budgeting, forecasting, growth strategies. They want your input to be able to help with that. They might also need reports about distribution, making sure that, well, they all need to make sure they're compliant with their IALTAs. That's just a given with the legal profession. But they need things about distributions, because if their distributions aren't accurate, and trust me, they don't understand their distributions as much as you think they do, then it affects their retention with their partners. So think about those different things and how you can have that very basic silver package. Maybe it's for a startup, a law firm, or a solo practitioner. Then the gold package might be for the majority of clients, and maybe the majority of clients have maybe 5 to 10 people in their firm. The diamond package might be more complexities, where that could be 10 or plus in a firm. So those are some of the things to think about.
So I have two questions, Lauren.
Yeah.
And Nick asked a question too. Nick, I'll get your question 1 second. One is that I think sometimes people just make their packages as they move up from the silver to the diamond about value. And how do you coach value versus volume? Meaning, I've seen people say, okay, we're just going to do, you're bigger, so I'm going to charge you more. And then, of course, that there is merit in the idea that people are doing more work, thus they have to charge more for bigger packages. But to me, it seems like that, how do you coach an ideal client seeing the value as they go up? That's my first question. And then my second question is, do you always have to have 3? Is it, do some people have 2 or 5?
Let me answer one at a time. The first thing with value, it starts with that very first meeting. That's where you're going to be asking great questions. It's not necessarily knowing about how many counts or transactions you're doing. What you want to find out is what it is that they want to achieve, what it is that's really important to them, and maybe some of those long-term achievements, how you can help them to really achieve those things. because you're giving them the financial information for them to make strategic decisions or have awareness about what's going on with their financials. Because a lot of times what they think is happening and what's really happening are two different things. The other thing is that the value is not the technical part or the compliance part of it, but it's about how you are able to give them information that they can actually implement and use in their business, how you may be able to see something as far as a pattern that they're not aware of, and you're now bringing it to their attention to maybe plug up a money leak where there might be redundancies or unused subscriptions, and helping them to become more profitable, or being able to help them expand and grow because now you can help them with budgeting or forecasting. So how can you take what you know, because of the fact that you understand the financials, and give them that information to help them really grow their business? That is the biggest part about value, is really not just giving them the information or doing things behind the scenes, but giving them the information in a way that they can actually put it into play and it makes a difference in their business. The second part with packages is 3 is the sweet spot. Studies and research that I've done on packaging options, how people buy and make choices, is when you only give them one option, then they're deciding whether to work with you or whether to move on and work with somebody else. If you give them 2 options, then research shows they usually go with the lower package. If you give them 3 options, then research shows they usually go with the middle package. And this goes back to actually research that was done on Starbucks and their pricing options. Starbucks has 3 different sizes for coffee. Now, they actually have a 4th size. They have a small, but they took the small off the menu, even though you can still ask for it and get it. I just want to let you know that.
Can you call it a small, or do you have to use some Italian name?
It's called a small. The next time you want less than 12 ounces, ask them for the small.
I would actually do another poll saying of the audience, how many people actually go into Starbucks and actually use the Italian name or the English name? I always say medium. I want to make.
I just want to wrap up and say that with the way that we make decisions, 3 is the sweet spot. The majority of clients will go into 3. Plus, you'll be earning more money by having those 3 different options.
I have sort of a follow-up, which I was thinking about in real time, saying if someone bought the basic silver package, but then, trust compliance, which is technical, do you ever recommend add-ons? So when we think about pricing strategies in lien law, sometimes we think about our basic version of a product, but then they could add on leads billing, which is a specific type of legal billing. Instead of getting the fancier version, they can do an add-on. So we get the and one. Do you ever coach add-ons?
Yes.
Having them to jump to the new pricing package?
Well, when I was talking about Susan and how I developed her packages with her, not only did we have her packages, but yes, every client is unique. And sometimes there's additional things. We did have what I called an upsell column, which might be the a la carte or the add-ons. And that way, if a client needed payroll, but her other clients didn't, she can bring that into a package and then price it accordingly also. I'm just going to say, by Susan going away from the traditional hourly rate that she had into packages, she earned an additional $56,000 in 9 months. Plus, she went from working 7 days a week, maybe 60 hours a week, down to 20 hours a week. So not only did she earn an additional $56,000, but she went down to 20 hours a week because things were it was a better workflow. It was more productized in some ways. And she was able to pass more off to her assistant than she had before, because she had systems in place, which means that she is not the bottleneck in her own business any longer.
I think that, what's so attractive about packages, not only for the customer coming into your ecosystem and understanding how to engage you, and what the value you'll get, but also it takes so much tension out of the relationship. When you're billing hourly, lawyers get this a lot. That, you know, who wants to be charged a 10th, 6 minutes increments for a quick phone call at $500 an hour? You don't make the call,
Yeah.
or you make the call only when it gets so painful that you're like, okay, I'll actually go make that call. And many times, if they had, you know, engaged the lawyer earlier, they would have mitigated some decisions that they made about emailing someone or calling someone from the legal standpoint. One of the things I really quickly,
Jonathan,
go ahead.
You bring in a great question up, and I really want to highlight that point, because when people charge an hourly rate, as you said, they postpone, and something that was maybe a little problem or acute is now chronic. And in the long run, they might end up paying more to fix that problem than if they were in a package where they knew that it included some maybe additional outreach to you, or that it was set up to where they could ask you certain questions without having any additional charges. And now they come into you when a problem is small and an easy fix, as opposed to postponing it because they don't want to pay more fees to you. So that's a great point about the value of packages, and thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I think it's also important to know that having more micro conversations with your client rises out of the sort of mechanics and gets into more intimacy, more interaction, and you get a deeper and more meaningful exchange back and forth because you've taken the burden of money off the table. They just have built that budget into the opportunity.
Right. So there's one other thing that I want to say, because I've seen this a lot lately, is some of my clients don't want to talk to their clients. They don't want to have all the emails. They don't want to have all the texts or phone calls. They really don't want to be talking to their clients. And what we've been setting up in their business is for their clients to have access to their questions and their answers, but maybe it is an assistant, or we're creating a client care manager position in their particular firms, so that an attorney can reach out to them, but they're not necessarily talking to you as the business owner, that professional. They're talking to somebody else who is actually assigned to talking with them. And that way, it lets the client have access to your firm and ask questions, but it doesn't necessarily bog you down if that's something that you don't enjoy doing.
And one little side note is I wanted to make you spoke to one thing, and I wanted to add a little structure to it, which was this word contributions. So when, just from the law firm perspective, there is disbursements. So in a contingency matter with trust accounts, there's disbursements of the money from the trust account. And what Lauren was saying is that many law firms muck that up in terms of getting the money out of the trust account in a compliant way. But then there's this idea of contributions. So in many law firms using what's called a hail and door model of compensation, there's this finder, minder, grinder mentality, which means that different compensation for who finds the work, the originator, who's responsible for the work, and who's the working attorney. The point is that compensation management, especially for partnerships, becomes an enormous value add in helping the law firm not only calculate it, but disperse that money back to partners and being able to document it. That's an enormous area of challenge for small law firms to manage not only what the calculation should be on those disbursements to the partners, but then of course the actual mechanics of dispersing the money. So trust accounting and keeping it compliant and being able to move money in and out is a very explicit area of value add. And then helping the partners manage the calculations, capturing the information, setting up the framework, and capturing the information related to the contributions, and then dispersing those contributions and making it transparent is really critical. We have a question from Nick, and Jason, you raised your hand. I'm not sure if you want to contribute, but I would ask you just to chat me if you do. Nick asked the question a little while ago, and he said, would you have a good, better, and best rates for silver, gold, and diamond levels? And I think I'm not sure exactly what that, if he's meaning,
yeah, I
think it's different or your hourly rates are different, but I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, and who am I answering?
Nick's question, Jason just clarified that he didn't mean to raise his hand. So
if you're first starting with value pricing, I would just have one set of rates, good, better, and best for the, I would just have one set of rates. Start with the good, if that's where your comfort zone is, for the packages, because you have to also figure out how to explain the value. And I want you to have some wins and to recognize that you can earn more without having to work additional hours. Then as you're getting more comfortable with this, you might want to have the good, better, and best price for each of your packages, because then you're going to maybe get a sense as you're talking to people where they're at, or maybe as you're asking great questions, you're able to realize, oh my gosh, I can help them make an additional $20,000 a month in their business. Well, if you're able to help them with that, you might not want to go with the good rate. You might want to try the better or the best rate, because you're actually helping them maybe bring in another 100K per year to their bottom line. So that's some of the things I would say is, in the beginning, just go with the good rate, just to kind of test it out, dip your toes in the water, get comfortable with it. And then later on, you can absolutely have a good, better, and best rate, because with value pricing, you're pricing the client, not your service.
And because we have a little bit of time, I'll give you one personal experience here at Law. When we came out of the market from the pricing, and of course it's different, we were priced almost half of what we're charging today. Part of it was just, we wanted obviously to win some clients early. Part of it was maybe we didn't feel like we had a feature complete product, but part of it was fear. We just weren't confident to say this is what our price was. And I remember when we did our first price increase, it was so stressful for me, because I'm out there selling it. And I literally said to my two business partners, it's easy for you to raise prices. You don't have to get in front of a customer and sell this. And what happened was, as we began to sell it, people bought it. It was in my head, this additional pricing thing. It really wasn't tied to the value, because, you know, we used that work to tie the value of what we were offering to the pricing. And that became part of my sales vernacular and speaking. Now we've raised our prices a third time, and we're done for now. But the idea was that we looked at the marketplace and we were still undervalued. So part of our competitive analysis was to say, where do we want to be financially? But part of it was looking at the market, and we left money on the table. And so we started to price it accordingly to the market. We still think we're competitive. Now our next step is to begin to package our onboarding. So we're putting more structure around packaging. If you look at our pricing page today, last night we updated our site. We didn't put explicit packages, but we're moving to this place to now offer to our clients this idea that we can help them move on to Law, and we can package that in a fixed price. And we find that people want to just buy that because they see it as a natural and organic component to coming on to Law. So our own personal experience, fear, I mean, it's really anxiety to get out there and say, now we're $45 a month. And having done this now for 5 years and understanding the marketplace and speaking to the value, I can explicitly tell a client, I said to them, they said, well, they said, compared to us, this just happened yesterday. He said, well, we're looking at you and the ability, and they're less expensive. And I just looked at him and said, you're not comparing apples to apples. It's like saying, you know, a Geo Metro and a Volvo are the same thing. And I said it with absolute confidence, because I knew if he did not value us as a platform, he was a crappy client, and I didn't want him, because he's just going to cause problems later.
Yeah.
And that was important. Okay, Lauren, I want to get back to and wrap this up, because we have about 6 minutes. I think you spoke to this a little, but I really want you to talk, you know, I want you to kind of do a twofer, which is, what are the next steps for people? So I know there's the engagement with you you'll talk to, but just go back and summarize. We've given them a lot of information today. What are the things they can do today, tomorrow? And then how can they, you know, over the course, engage with you in different ways that they might be interested to learn more from you?
Sure. The first thing I want to do is actually bring what you just said into the next steps, because accounting professionals want to raise the rates, but how long do you think about it before you actually do it? Is it been months? Is it possibly years since you've actually had that price increase that you've been wanting because of your own fears of losing clients? You need to bring in a certain amount of money. Your biggest client is also your biggest headache. You wish they would go away, but you're afraid of having that gap then in your income also. Those are some of the things that keep you with your current pricing structure, is all those fears. And that is part of what the work that I do solves is helps you, you know what you want. Sometimes you don't know how to do it. And I work closely with my clients on getting it done in a way that works for you and that you're able to implement it without feeling like it is going to stretch you. It compromises other parts of your value system. The main thing you want to think about is, do you have a niche or a specialty? Do you work with a particular type of client, or do you actually solve a particular type of problem? And then I would say, if you're not doing packages already, once again, become aware of that problem that you do solve for your clients, or the different problems, and list out all your services and which of those services help to solve that particular problem. That is how you start to create your packages. As far as the pricing goes, it's something I do together with my clients because, like I said, it's as much art as it is science. But what you want to really start to consider is stepping into your client's shoes and recognizing what is the value to them. How much can you actually help them make as far as increased revenues? Just because they're increasing revenues doesn't mean they're increasing profitability. How much more profitability can you help them generate by the end of the year? Where are you maybe plugging up money leaks or lowering their AR in some ways? Those are some of the things to really think about when you're recognizing the value of what you bring to the table, and then you can price accordingly. With packages, I see them more as a template because every single client is a little bit different. This gives you a template of what goes into basically the silver, gold, and diamond packages. However, as Jonathan mentioned, every client might have some different specifics or need something unique for their business, and you can mix and match accordingly. But when you actually have them come back and say, well, this pricing is too much, don't negotiate on rates because that just lowers your value. It shows that you weren't wedded to it. What you want to do is maybe take out services and negotiate services to adjust the pricing, not to just lower your rates. And that is really golden right there if you took nothing else away. If you're interested in actually, you're tired of thinking about it and doing it yourself, and you know that each month you postpone doing it, you're leaving your own money on the table, then I invite you to have a conversation with me. I'm putting the link in the chat, but it is a path to profit strategy session where I am focusing on what it is you want to achieve, where some things are right now with your practice, some of the obstacles, some of the opportunities. If it looks like it's a fit for working together, we would talk about what that would be also. I have varieties of different programs and packages. It's more that I focus on what's in the best need of the individual as opposed to what's my best need. I want this to be an investment for you. Like with Susan, not only was she burning out from working 7 days a week and went down 20 hours a week in 4 days, but we added another $56,000 to her bottom line. That made a huge difference for her. Took away so many worries and gave her peace of mind. That is what I want to do for my clients, is really not, it's not just about the technical part. It's about the fact that when you get this in place, you have less stress, you're not as overwhelmed, you're working with clients who value and appreciate you, and you get to do some things in your personal life that you have had to sacrifice because you've been trading time for money. And it's just time to stop tolerating those things and have a business that supports your lifestyle. So I have 3 Path to Profit strategy sessions available. If that feels like you're interested, you recognize that investing in yourself is the best thing you can do, and you want to see how that would work, then click the link, businesssuccesssolution.com/let's talk, and we'll have that conversation.
So Lauren, we're at the hour. I want to thank you and thank everyone who attended, and thank Steve for the community minding, and thank you all for attending. A few little notes just to remind you, we at LeanLaw always welcome community, and a good place to connect with us for this group is the LeanLaw Accounting Pro program. If you're asking how do I niche into law, there is so much online content around the financing of law firms that there is more information than you could ever possibly imagine to engage in. And so you can look at the lawyerist the ABA, the American Bar Association. Lean Law has a very active blog in terms of the finance side, as do some of our competitors. So lots of information to self-serve. So I thank everyone for being here. And I'm going to end the session, and I look forward to talking to you in November in our next session. So thank you all, and have a lovely day. And thanks, Lauren. It's always fun to talk to you. Bye-bye. Bye, Steve.
Take care.
Bye.